Hello everyone, welcome to HW News. For almost 2 months now, India is confronted with a ferocious second wave of COVID-19. In these 2 months, we have seen the worst of it. Patients struggling to get oxygen, life-saving medicines, many of them unable to find beds or ventilators on time. We have seen the horrific situation in Delhi where people have died of lack of oxygen. But as the pandemic crippled our health infrastructure, our healthcare system, it is the frontline workers, our doctors, nurses, healthcare workers who are trying their best to keep it afloat. Honestly, we as Indians should be thankful to all of these healthcare workers for their service in these challenging times. But while we do that, we also have to pay attention to one of the less discussed aspects of the pandemic and its impact. And I am talking about the impact of the pandemic on doctors who are on COVID duty. You see, we get to hear a lot about what patients are suffering from, but there is rarely any discussion on what those on the other side of the COVID battle are facing. Today in this video, we will talk about the impact of COVID pandemic on the mental health of our frontline workers. And I am joined by Dr. Srinivas Rajkumar. He is consultant psychiatrist. So let's talk to him and understand what exactly are the doctors facing in this crisis. First of all, thank you so much. Dr. Srinivas, for joining us on this conversation. As we start this conversation, I would like to start it mentioning about Dr. Vivek Rai. Dr. Vivek Rai died a few days ago by suicide, and he was working in a private hospital in Delhi in COVID-19 ward, and apparently the kind of deaths that he saw in the COVID ward had a toll on his mental health, and he died by suicide. As we start this conversation, Dr. Srinivas, I would first like to ask you about this. What exactly is going on COVID wards in India, and how is it affecting the mental health of doctors?
Thank you, Aarti, from HW News for this opportunity. First, I would like to explain a little bit about what such a tragedy, what a crisis like COVID can have on normal citizens and also healthcare workers. It is extremely difficult time, and most of the doctors did not expect that things would get from bad to worse, at least how things are going on now. Then again, doctors have a sense of helplessness because we are kind of trained to help patients during times of crisis and bring them out. But what is happening now is a sense of helplessness. Even if with the best of your abilities, even if you try to help them, you are not able to do. A sense of powerlessness kind of creeps in. A doctor feels that he is not able to fulfill his duty. This is a kind of disillusionment that happens at this juncture during pandemic. You can see similar thoughts reflected by many doctors that there are so many calls. I am not able to do anything. I am not able to even get beds for my family members, not able to get beds for my colleagues. So such is the current situation. It obviously takes a serious mental toll. And regarding this specific resident, I think it would be too premature to comment what really happened in his case without a thorough history of what was his previous mental health like and what exactly led to the current situation. It would be too premature to make a comment. But adding to that, this pandemic, the current situation is very precarious unless measures are taken to decrease both the physical and the psychological burden on doctors. Things may get worse.
All right. Srinivas, it has been a year that we are fighting this pandemic. Now, there was a period of almost 4 to 5 months, which was sort of like a breather for healthcare workers. Now, with the second wave, however, cases are rising again, and the doctors are working extended hours. How has COVID-19 changed the lives of Indian doctors?
See, first we can divide the kind of problems doctors are facing into what happens during residency versus what happens to senior doctors as a different cadre. The training of doctors has been compromised terribly because everybody, irrespective of the specialty, what they are doing is COVID duty. Even me as a psychiatrist, I was working in COVID area during the height of the pandemic. So this, though there is some amount of cross training, it is important that every specialist contributes during this massive crisis. But it's almost a year, more than a year, when there are doctors who are working in a completely different zone. And as you said, there was a breather, there was no breather. So what happened during pandemic was the other cases got piled up. For example, surgeries, like even important surgeries which may prolong the lives of individuals related to oncology and other conditions, kind of got piled up. They were just trying to catch up on the piled up cases so that things can become better both for them and also for the patients. But before that could happen, the second wave struck. So it was like the experts were warning. The worldwide data suggested that there is going to be an impending second wave. Even some political leaders compared it to a tsunami, where there is a kind of temporary withdrawing of the sea, which you mistake for an opportunity to fish, but you get caught in the tsunami, massive tsunami. This is what is happening now, because to mistake temporary decrease in cases for relief from the pandemic was a gross negligent move on the part of government and policymakers that has left us in this situation now.
And I guess it wouldn't be wrong to say that along with patients, along with common citizens, it is also the healthcare workers who are hit hard by this tsunami of coronavirus pandemic, the second wave of coronavirus. Now, according to a study conducted by the Indian Journal of Medical Sciences, the frontline workers are dealing with depression, anxiety, stress, and insomnia. Now, as per the study, there are shocking numbers. The results of the study revealed that almost 40.4% and 40% of prevalence of mild and moderate depression in the male doctors, whereas in case of female doctors, it was 59.6% and 60% of the mild and moderate depression. 52% of the male doctors also reported experiencing severe anxiety, while the number was way higher in female doctors, which was 68%. And the number is surprisingly more among the resident doctors. If you could throw some light on the situation of resident doctors, what exactly are they going through?
So doctors, as I said already, they are working for prolonged shifts and they are working in unfamiliar environment, and they are doing duties for which they were not actually trained. So this has made things very difficult. Again, initially during the pandemic, at least there was some safety net in the form of they were assured of some monetary benefits, which kind of was being taken back intermittently. We had to again fight to keep the system running. So this again worsens all the mental health conditions you were saying, say about insomnia, say anxiety, PTSD. So it is a culmination of, it's not only about an individual being stressed in the environment, it's about the kind of safety net that is available. So healthcare workers, like when a doctor sees a news about senior doctor dying due to lack of oxygen, just imagine the impact this news would have on the psyche of a doctor early in the morning when he wakes up and goes to COVID duty. What is the assurance that he would be treated if the same thing happens to him? We just got a news of like a HOD of gastro department succumbing to COVID because there was no oxygen. Just imagine the impact of such news on a doctor. And again, as several doctors have pointed out, we were taught to treat the illness. What would doctors do when there is no oxygen, when there is no bed, when there is no facility to kind of upgrade the care provided that can be provided to the patient? If a patient has to be shifted from a simple oxygen bed to an ICU, when there is no ICU available, what do you inform to the patient? What do you inform to the relative of the patient who is like completely trusting you with the life of their loved one? What do you reply to them? So the kind of psychological toll is unimaginable, because nobody is trained to handle such situation. It's like unimaginable kind of stress, in addition to the psychological toll of wearing a PPE, not interacting with people, not interacting with friends and family, staying away from the family because you're afraid you would infect them. And again, even when family members get infected, it is becoming very difficult for even doctors to find beds. So it's a like severe toll, both physically, psychologically. It's like unimaginable. So that manifests as the psychiatric symptoms you say of depression, anxiety, PTSD, insomnia. It's like it's painful. Like that pain cannot be expressed in words or in surveys. It's unimaginable.
Srinivas, you were enrolled in COVID duty. I am sure your many colleagues are enrolled in COVID duties. Do you ever get this a feeling of fear that in case if you are infected, maybe you will not get bed?
See, like every doctor hopes that their colleagues would help them. Okay, this is a hope. I don't want to kind of spread a kind of fear among doctors. So whoever is listening to this, if you are a healthcare professional, be assured there would be a friend, there would be a senior, or there would be a junior who would help you. So if we abandon hope, we won't be able to fight in the front line. So like currently I am practicing in my level as a psychiatrist. So the risk of being exposed to COVID cases is less relatively, but my colleagues who are working in ICU, HDU, and other very critical regions in the hospital, like be assured, some help will come from somewhere. We will try to help you. So don't abandon hope.
All right. Now, one of the issues being flagged constantly but gets less attention is a shortage of frontline staff. Do we at present have enough staff to manage the pandemic?
See, regarding staff shortage, I have been speaking about this for not like 1 year, 2 year, for 5 years. We have been saying the system of examination about how you send somebody from MBBS, who is a MBBS graduate, to do PG. Like you are literally stopping 2 lakh doctors, making them prepare for 1 or 2 years to get a desired PG seat. So in a country which is in a precarious situation, which is kind of holding back doctors at severe level for their own career progress, you're basically wasting the time that would be available to serve people, which is being invested in the form of like PG preparation. That is because of the disproportionate number of postgraduate seats available. Regarding the shortage of healthcare workers, the government has been dismally investing on healthcare. Imagine just near to 1% of GDP. It doesn't mean like current government or the previous government. All governments have been investing very dismally on healthcare. And again, even though there was a mild rise in budget allocation this time, it should be noted that the funds were diverted in the form of insurance and other policies to promote the private players. So the precarious shortage of healthcare workers and infrastructure is an impending situation. It was already there. Only the COVID has exposed it, rather to say that COVID has created a crisis. COVID has just exposed the real face of Indian healthcare about how it is functioning. Even on a regular day, there is disproportionate doctor-patient ratio. There are lesser number of doctors than that would be required to treat patients, which is evident from the overcrowded OPDs, lack of ICU beds, and like lack of admission facilities for admission is not a COVID specific issue. It happens every day in bigger Indian hospitals. There are people who die every day, irrespective of like whether there is a pandemic or there is no pandemic. The current like volume and the demand on healthcare is disproportionate. That I completely agree. But if it was staffed adequately for a normal time, this would not be the situation now. So it is always like the Indian kind of jugaad approach. Whenever there is a crisis, they just do makeshift facilities. So in 2020, during the first wave, we had a very specific demand. Whatever you invest it permanently. Make sure that any investment you make today will be there to serve the country forever. This was our very specific demand, which was not fulfilled. The government, hell bent on populism, was more focused on advertising, showcasing like achievements, kind of premature celebration. So this sets a very bad precedent. It shows the people that we have already won. It is not only during second wave, even during the initial stages of the pandemic, the kind of celebration that was undertaken, like clapping, then lighting the lamp, then this tali banging and other things. These things were done like in other countries as a mark of conquering the first wave and celebrating the contribution of healthcare worker. But we tend to kind of operate in complete reverse. We tend to celebrate first and then look at task at hand. And I don't think be it war or be it any battle, people who celebrate before victory end up doing the necessary work to conquer the situation at hand.
All right.
And regarding the current crisis, the current requirement of healthcare worker, an undue emphasis is placed on will NEET PG, postponing NEET PG make a tremendous impact on the availability of healthcare worker. This assumption is entirely false. The problem is people who have prepared for 1 year, people who have dropped and prepared for 2 years or more. Do you think if a gap of 4 months is provided, they would go and join the duties or they would continue to refine their preparation? You can make arguments about what is the need of the hour to serve the people or to prepare for your post-graduation. These arguments, theoretical arguments can be made. Even if the 2 lakh doctors are available stat as of now, even if they enroll, I don't think government is in a position to coordinate and deploy them and use their services, put their services to best use. Because right now, I just read a news about the supplies which have been sent from abroad are lying without being distributed. People are dying. Countries are ready to donate, but everything lies in customs. Can you just imagine a country like this, which is not even able to distribute the aid they have received? I feel so bad and dejected by hearing such news. We have got aid. There are people ready to help. And this government, which has specifically denied even the logistic help that was provided by United Nations, they said that please use our infrastructure to distribute the aid. And this government had making drone videos of containers traveling, so ridiculous. Just always they are trying to find a scapegoat. They say doctors are not available. Okay, now free the doctors. How will you be able to deploy them? 2 lakhs. Just can you make them enter into the healthcare pool? Like these doctors who are sitting and preparing for 1 year, like some interns who are working in different disciplines, the young, vulnerable, mostly unvaccinated, and you just want to deploy them. Do you have enough PPEs? Do you have enough oxygen? Even if you admit so many patients, do you have enough oxygen to give them?
All right.
You are just addressing the convenient part of the convenient problem. You just say there are no doctors. Okay, bring everybody, bring the students. But what will you do about other aspects? Where are the beds? Where are the medications? Where is the oxygen? And where are the ICU beds?
That's the question that everybody is asking. I guess what you said is what I guess every healthcare worker is also feeling. I'm sure about it. Also, the fact that the government is now talking about enrolling final year MBBS students in the COVID duties. What do you think about that? Is it a wise decision?
First, let them optimize the current services. Include doctors in a stepwise pattern. For example, make an open call for people to join services. Then again, expand it to interns who are willing. Just follow a stepwise approach. It's not like just every intern come and serve. What will they do? A final MBBS doctor who has hardly attended few clinical postings, who has done nothing of the sort of COVID care, who has never seen a ventilator, what will be his role in COVID care?
Their training is also, I
Of
guess,
course,
is
he
a
has
major
the
issue.
theoretical knowledge. Sorry.
I guess their training is also a major issue. Like you said, that they are not aware about the COVID care. So training them will also be a major problem that they will be facing.
Absolutely. Like during the height of the pandemic, what are you going to get done with them? Like without predefined targets or predefined role, like maybe you can like ask them to handle some helplines, do some coordination. Obviously, they are well read. They have very good theoretical knowledge. So if a flow chart or protocol is provided to them, it is obviously easier to train them than to train even Ayush or like doctors from other streams, which I completely agree. But do you have a plan in hand? Just making blanket announcements without any plan forward, what role are they going to serve? What will they be able to do? And will the entry of these doctors, even in Toto, make any change in the current situation of the country, where the government is hesitant on imposing lockdown because they want to save economy? I don't know how letting more people die will keep the economy ticking in the long run.
All right, Srinivas, before we end this video, let me get back to the previous question, the previous issue of the mental health. Tell us, as a psychiatrist, what do you feel? What are the important steps that the government should take to ensure that the mental health of doctors is not affected, or at least there is something, a sort of like a cushion that doctors should be helped with their mental health issues which are induced due to their COVID duties?
I think government has recently done a very good step. They have offered a helpline specifically for healthcare worker, manned by both experts from NIMANS and also All India Institute of Medical Science. That is a very welcome move. But like the current concept is more of like Atmanirbhar. You have to be self-reliant in taking care of yourself. A helpline will obviously help you during times of crisis. But I advise all of my friends, at least during the time when you are away from the ward, try to do some physical activity, at least indoors or outdoors, as convenient while following precautions. Try to maintain a regular activity. If you feel so stressed or burnt out, try to maintain some journal where you can vent out your emotions, hard feelings, rather than holding them in your head. Then, if you are worried about the loved ones, please make calls to them, send messages, and stay in touch with your friends and family. Like you have to support each other. Otherwise, like whatever is being done is like just nominal. One cannot just rely on helpline to take care of the severe symptoms of like depression, anxiety, or insomnia. Try to maintain a healthy lifestyle despite the kind of heavy toll the COVID duties take on you. Try to maintain good nutrition, good diet. Take care of yourself. Even if you have mild symptoms or COVID like symptoms, get tested. It's always said that doctors are poor patients. They make so much advice to people regarding health, well being, nutrition. But if you kind of check doctors versus regular population, their own metabolic parameters and overall health and activity would be kind of like in terrible shape. So this is time to reflect on your own health, because we have seen that in mortality data also. There are young doctors dying. That's partly due to the high viral load in the initial exposure, but it is also due to their own poor health condition. So please take care of your physical health, mental health, and also ensure that your friends and family are also safe. Support everybody. I hope that we'll come victoriously out of the pandemic.
Well, thank you so much, Srinivas. And we, as always, are very grateful to you, to all your doctor colleagues who are fighting this battle from the front line in this COVID war. Thank you so much, Srinivas, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Aarti.